Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim L'chaim. This week's Torah portion is Vayera. It opens up with Avram, and he's visited by these three angels. And the one angel comes to announce that him and Sarah are going to give birth to a baby boy, and they should name him Yitzchak. It then goes on to talk about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, the destruction of these cities. It was actually 4 cities that were destroyed, and the famous story of Lot and his wife, who when they're escaping, his wife looks back and turns into a pillar of salt. And then the conclusion of the parsha is with the Akeidas Yitzchak, with the sacrifice of Isaac. And spoiler alert, he doesn't get sacrificed in the end, Baruch Hashem. And it's full of, great content, lots of lessons to pull out of it. But one thing that I was thinking about this week was, we've just read the first 4 parshiot of the Torah, Bereshit, Noach, Lech Lecha, and Vayera. And I was wondering how they connect to each other. And one thing that I came to is that the opening of the Torah portion, Bereshit, as Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs said, Alav Shalom, he said that the whole book of Bereshit is about relationships. And so the very first chapter, Bereshit, is clearly about these relationships. Mother and wife, or mother and father, parents to children, siblings, etc. So the first book is about family relationships. Then you go to Noach and you see a whole community. We talk about how Noach was righteous in his generation. The whole community was wicked except for him. So then you get lessons about the community, and how to respond there. And then there's Lech Lecha, which focuses on the individual and about going out of bad midot into a better place, into a better midot. And Vayera, to me, seems like now that we've narrowed down on the individual, let's focus on how you actually do that, how you fight the fight. And it seems to me that throughout this parsha, we get different lessons of how a person, after, deciding and making the decision to go out from themselves, to work on their midot, now it's how do you do that? And we see this with Avram. Avram at the very beginning, where we have the angels. There's one Dvar Torah I read where it says, we must focus on being like angels. Some say they were men, some say they were angels, because when you're an angel, you are omdim, you're standing, and you're constantly in that moment. So there's this idea of constantly being in the moment. But what I want to focus on is that, as we know with Avram, is he always rushed to do a mitzvah. It says that he arose early in the morning many times throughout the Torah because he always rushed to do a mitzvah. And I think that this is one way we can focus on being better in ourselves. How do you focus on getting away from bad traits, bad habits? Is you rush to do a good thing. You occupy your time with good things. And when you rush to do them, you won't have time for bad things. You won't have time for these other things. So stay busy with good things. Then you have Lot and his wife, and the idea there, as I've studied and learned, is that you don't look back. Don't look back at these bad traits. Don't look back and focus on the negative things. Focus forward. Focus on where you're going. Where is the destination, and where do you want to be? Focus on the good, and forgive yourself for what happened in the past. Just try to be better now. And then there's at the very end Akeidas Yitzchak, and I think the most telling lesson that we learn from that is don't sacrifice others for your misfallings or misfailings or your failings. The idea is that all the time, or many times, people tend to sacrifice others and blame them for their mistakes, when in reality we have to own up for what we've done if we ever want to move forward, if we ever want to start a righteous nation, which starts at home, it starts with ourselves. We have to focus on owning up to the mistakes we made. So those are the 3 things that I really think I've learned from this week's Torah portion about how we can focus on the good fight, on focusing on ourselves and become better. 1 is rush to do a good mitzvah. 2 is don't look back, don't focus on what's happened in the past, focus on where you're going, what's in the future, what's forward, what's good. And the other is don't blame others for what you've done and own up to your mistakes. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, and I hope we can all merit to succeed in all these ways and be the best individuals we can be. Shabbat Shalom.